Welcome to another session of Power Finances. We're going to be talking about one of the best stories in the Bible, and we're going to talk about the power of God in it. But first, before we get started, if you'll go to my website, kingdomlifeinthespirit.org, and you'll tap on blog at the very top, it'll open up, and the first thing it'll show up will be my Power Finances. You can click on that, and it will open up, and you can copy it and paste it into your word processor so you can follow along. Be easy peasy. All right, so we got a story about a young man who's the youngest son of Jacob or Israel, and he was a favored son of all of the 12 sons. So his brothers hated him for it because he was the favorite. Well, his dad, Jacob, made him a coat of many colors. Brothers hated that. So Joseph came to his brothers one day and he said, "Look, I had a dream and we were in a field and I had a sheaf and there were other sheaves in there and their sheaves came and bowed down to my sheaf." And the brothers hated him for it because they said, "You think we're going to bow down to you?" Then he had another dream, and the sun and moon and 11 stars came and bowed down to him. And they said, "You think we're going to bow down to you?" And they hate him the more. So given the chance, the brothers plotted a plan to take Joseph, and first they were going to kill him, and then they decided not to, and strip his coat off, get it torn up, put goat's blood on it until their father, lion ate him or something. And then they threw him in a pit. Then they thought, well, here comes some Midianites, so he was sold into slavery. When he was sold into slavery, the Midianites went into Egypt and sold him to Potiphar, who was Pharaoh at the time. So something happened. It was very interesting. Pharaoh found out that there was a lot of power in Joseph's life, and that Joseph, whatever he did, success came to him. So Pharaoh made him head over everything. Until later, he was a fair young man, and Pharaoh's wife, Potiphar's wife, came and, "Look, come lie with me." Well, he managed to get away on many occasions, and finally one day he couldn't get away from her. Nobody was around. She grabbed his coat and ripped it off of him and claimed that she was being forced by him. Well, Potiphar gets home, throws him into prison. While he's in prison, the captain of the guard saw there was a lot of favor and power in Joseph's life, and he put everything under his hand. And at the meantime, there was a butler and a baker in there, and they had dreams, and he correctly interpreted their dreams. How the butler would go back into Pharaoh's good graces, and the baker would be hanged. Well, later, Potiphar had a dream, and in the dream, he saw these 7 cows that were fat, and then another time he saw 7 cows that were lean, and the 7 lean cows ate the 7 fat ones. Then he had 7 ears of corn that were fat, and then he had 7 ears of corn that were lean, and they ate up the 7 ears of corn that were fat. And he could not figure out what the dream meant. So the butler that was in the house said, "Well, look, there was a man in prison that interpreted my dream." So he brought him in, and he correctly interpreted there was going to be 7 years of good, and then there was going to be 7 years of famine. What you need to do is put somebody in charge over all the land to raise enough food in the time of good against the time of famine. In the meantime, he had put everything under his hand and made him second command in all of Egypt. So Joseph's parents, his dad, had still been grieving all these years over his death, he thought. And he kind of hid himself from his brothers when they came to get food from him. And then later, what he did was reveal himself to him. "Go get your younger brother, bring him back." Israel didn't want to do that because he'd already lost a young favored son. Nevertheless, after much persuasion, they finally come back with him and his dad. So, the end of the story, he shows himself, and of course all his brothers and his father and mother bowed down to him. I look back at that and I think, okay, there's people out there that rue their place in life. They were servants to somebody or worked for somebody. They didn't like it. They were put in jail. They didn't like it. They had seemed to be, everything was going wrong in their life. But here's what Joseph said. What you meant for evil, God meant for good. So I've been placed over here to help y'all and bring prosperity and food to all the people. And he gave unto Israel and all his family some of the best land in all of Egypt. Even though the Egyptians and the Hebrew people did not get along and thought whatever they did was abominable. And for the shepherds were abominations to Egyptians who raised cows. It's kind of like the old Westerns, right? Nevertheless, my point is, quit griping and complaining about where you are and learn to be favored by God and have power in your hand to be successful wherever you are. So if you're working for somebody, if you're a servant, if you're a slave, if you're in prison, no matter what. Now, everything that happened to him was a lie. He didn't have any charges against him other than jealousy and people that, his family that hated him, his brothers, and thrown into prison. But he didn't let his circumstances be a place for him not to be favored and given grace and power by God. You can do the same thing. If we're going to do power finances, you're going to have to learn to prosper and grow wherever you are. God bless you guys and go in peace. Love you. Bye.